I never think of leaving home, but one night, I packed my life in a suitcase, not even dare to say goodbye to my loved ones, and I never came back. Since then, I often ask myself, what do we do after...
That is former Hong Kong City Councillor Carmen Lau, who became an unwilling democracy activist in exile after China's imposition of the national security law in Hong Kong. She parted with her family in 2021, and since then she has endured endless harassment by the Chinese Communist Party, as well as their supporters. In December 2025, multiple news outlets reported that Carmen has been the target of harassment campaign involving letters containing fake, sexual, explicit images of her sent to her neighbors. In this year and time, we know that authoritarianism loves attacking women, using their gender and sexuality, and using misogyny as a tool of political repression. According to Marcus Michelson, a senior researcher at the Citizen Lab at the Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at University of Toronto, authoritarian governments rely on digital transnational repression to silence criticism and dissent outside their territories. Women human rights defenders and journalists in exile and in the diaspora face particular gendered form of digital threats that exploit their gender identity to intimidate, shame, and discredit them. We can probably tell how sick and twisted these authoritarian regimes are. But we rarely talk about the strength of these strong women who continue to fight back. You're listening to The Divide. My name is Iris Xu. And here is Carmen Lau.
In November, my MP reached out to me again and telling me that there has been some very unpleasant images of myself sent to the doorsteps of my neighbor again. He shared with me a screenshot of that physical letters. There were AI-generated explicit images having my face on it, signaling that I was a sex worker. And there were images of a woman providing sex service to others, either naked or just in underwears. And there were also my names and my details on it. And there were a sentence saying that all was welcome to my apartment for sex service. And as I know, all of the neighbors receive the letters were those who receive the letters about the bounty and encouraging them to place me to the Chinese embassy earlier last year.
In March 2025, Carmen's neighbor received letters offering a £100,000 bounty for information on her movement or for her to be taken to Chinese authorities. Now, do we know who the senders are?
No, we only know from the stamps that the letter was sent from Macau, but other than that, there weren't any informations about it. And it has been investigating by the UK police, but none of the clues that's showing that, or having any information about a specific sender of the letters.
What was Carmen's first reaction when she first learned about this?
I was not quite, but very shocked, and I was angry at first as well, because no one should be treated this way, no matter activist or not, or any man or woman shouldn't be treated this way. I was also a little bit scared because I didn't know how widespread the images were, and I didn't know that whether they were online as well. And because the images were really delicate and they looked very real, and of course, because the neighbor who received such letters, they've already received another, bounty letter earlier. I believe that they wouldn't believe that the images were real. But I was, very concerned about how widespread the images were. And I'm really disappointed because there is basically nothing that we could do for now, in order to stop them from doing that. It's not a new strategy by the CCP. We've been seeing Chinese dissidents or other groups like Tibetans or Uyghurs or even Taiwanese activists being targeted through sexual harassment or sexual violations as well. And it has been a long tactics that the CCP has been using, but I was quite surprised that they've enhanced such harassment by, technology. In the past, I can share my other experience. In the past, when I ran for the election of district council in Hong Kong, there were also videos spreading through community groups, like explicit videos spreading through community groups, and saying that was me. But it wasn't, the technology by then wasn't that good, putting one's face to a body and look very real. But for now, I do think that, AI technology has been utilized and weaponized by the authoritarian regime to do such things. And the speed of, like-minded countries of legalizing or, to formulating the use of AI or emerging technology is not fast enough, to respond to such evolution of transnational repression.
I asked Carmen whether she's worried that these campaigns could create social isolation or suspicion towards Hong Kongers living abroad.
Well, of course, the such tactic isn't just, impose some psychological pressure to activists, but also, try to deframe and to distrust to activists. And if such harassment or if such tactics continues, and every of the time when a woman activist being accused as a sex worker or as a, prostitute, then the credibility of our work and ourselves would be harmed. And I think that's the ultimate goal for the regime.
Is there any legislation or mechanism that can protect people like Carmen?
Not for now. As far as I know, the legislation of regulating the use of emerging technology in the UK are still ongoing. And even so, there are now also laws that could be used to put perpetrator accountable, but there basically has no laws to go after overseas perpetrators for now.
Despite the intimidation and the threats, Carmen continues to speak out. I want to know what is motivating her.
Well, at first I really didn't want to see anyone when the news broke out, and it took me also a while in order to talk to press about the incident, but I do feel that if the ultimate goal for the regime is to stop me from my work or to damage my credibility and my work, then I shouldn't go with their flow. So and I've been doing what I believe for so long, and I don't think that such harassment would, it's just a tiny bit of a broader sense of transnational repression. So yeah.
And do these campaigns change how she navigates public advocacy or digital security?
I've been very careful about digital security, and as an activist, we receive a lot of support and, toolkits about how to protect our own digital footprints or digital security. So, but honestly, I've been, try to further minimize my digital footprints. And but sometimes it's very doing advocacy or doing public advocacy is something that's putting yourself out there, and there is no way to avoid public facing, or to avoid having a lot of your information online. Of course, not private information, but for example, your face, your voice, and those are the things that could be trained or could be altered as those explicit images or videos. But just there isn't any way to avoid them, to avoid me, providing new information for the model. So this part, I think we really has to rely on legislation and law, not only for activists, but we've been seeing also, layman citizens, and we've been seeing students, even in Hong Kong, their face being put on pornography by AI, and so it's just, as an activist, it's an identity, but it's more of an issue of a gender-based harassment.
And what advice would Carmen give to other Hong Kongers who have resettled abroad or might be facing quieter forms of intimidation?
I would say it's very easy to quit, or very easy to being silenced by what we've been facing. It's very uneasy, no matter they are like sounding transnational repression, like being assassinated, or some more subtle and microaggressive acts, like someone saying that you are doing a wrong thing online or in your daily life. And the regime is really good at psychological warfare and disinformation. So I think the only thing we could do is to navigate among the fear or any other emotions that we have, and also, of course, to equip ourselves to be more ready on any uncertainty or any possibility of facing harassment or transnational repression. And if you have expectation, I think emotionally, and it would be easier to tackle and not to be succumbed by the fear.
Carmen is fierce. She is an unstoppable force, and she's not afraid to take on China's authoritarian regime, and we all should be listening to her.
We've been working on projects of course, advocacy, and in the UK. So I focus more in the UK in the past year. There will be another protest against the Chinese mega embassy. The government is going to announce its decision in around 2 weeks' time, and it's very crucial because it has been delayed for so long already, and potentially the Prime Minister will visit China very soon, and we suspect that it is related to the application of the Chinese mega embassy. That's the focus we have at the moment in the new year. But of course, we've been working on other projects as well. For example, more of an academic projects about looking for possibility of restoring Hong Kongers' self-determinations, and also, of course, at the same time, advocate against transnational repression. These are the things that has been on our plan, and it will continue to be my focus this year because of the incidents of the explicit images. I also expand my interest to emerging technologies and AI for now.
Hold on. What is it about this Chinese mega embassy in London that's dangerous?
There are 3 major concerns from different groups of people. The first thing is that diplomatically, the Royal Means Court was a very important heritage of the UK's history, and is located in the heart of London, just next to the Tower Bridge and the Tower of London. So it would send a very strong diplomatic signal to the rest of the world, saying that, the UK is a very good friend of China, so we allow them to have an embassy in the heart of our capital and in a very historical building of the UK's history. And secondly, it is a concern from locals and also nearby neighbors, is that there were a lot of cables and important telecom infrastructure nearby, and they will pose a threat on real security issues of the UK, and that's the main point of the locals and neighbors who has been opposing it. And of course, to the diaspora, it is of course about the concern of turning embassy into a larger hub of transnational repression, and also for interference as well, because just the size of the potentially new embassy in the Royal Ming Court, it will be the largest embassy in Europe. It will allow China to have at least 4 times more of its current diplomatic personnel. It is not a secret, that country has been using diplomatic outposts as information or intelligence services. Who knows how would they utilize the embassy? And one very questionable point is that in their plan submitted to the government, there were a few rooms its usage was blacked out, and they refused to provide further information to the government as well on the use of those rooms in the basement. So it is very easily, as a person whose neighbor has been receiving letters encouraging them to turn me into the Chinese embassy, it's just not difficult for us to imagine what would happen in those rooms.
Everything about this Chinese mega embassy sounds terrifying, especially given the past records of embassy staff harassing activists on the street.
In Manchester, a few years ago, some Hong Kong protesters protest outside of the Manchester Chinese consulate and being dragged in to the consulate's area and beaten up by personnel. And one of them were actually the key person of that consulate. And they just flew out of the UK free the next day. So we couldn't see any consequences being posed by those perpetrators on the British soil.
And how is the UK government okay with that?
I was saying that especially in the past year, it has been very disappointing. The Hong Kong diaspora, 200,000 BNO immigrants came to the UK. We've been very disappointed by a lot of decisions the UK government has made in the past year, not just the Chinese mega embassy, but also, not placing China on the enhanced tier of the foreign infants registration scheme, which if they were put on the enhanced tier, the country or the state or the region would have to be fully disclose their foreign influence information or activities on the British soil, but they refuse. Although they've named China alongside Russia and Iran as the top, national security threats to the UK, but they have a new law, new regulations to try to monitor the activities on the British soil, but they just didn't put them on the enhanced tier. And the BNO visa scheme, potentially because of the tightened immigration policy, the BNO migrants or the BNO visa holder would be affected in the UK as well. Multiple, exchange with the Chinese government officials, and potentially the prime minister is visiting Beijing and meeting up with Xi Jinping. There are a lot to be done in order to restore the trust of this government to the Hong Kong diaspora in the UK right now.